Good morning again. So let us start with the next part, next topic, next package. There are many things we have to see, as I said last time. Hopefully, if you can recall, last time we talked about something called as a NumPy. And I said that NumPy is the package which every developer has to know. So without fail, just get the details there in the NumPy because there are many packages which are dependent on them. One of the packages which is tightly dependent on, or you can say which is derived from NumPy, is called as pandas. So pandas is something that we are going to explore today. But look, before looking at the pandas, I want to give you a quick heads up. So pandas is kind of, think of it as a kind of Excel for Python. So basically whatever you perform all the operations on Excel, you can perform them by using pandas package programmatically using Python's simple syntax, or the simplest syntax. So you have the programming power. At the same time, you can do whatever operations you generally do in Excel by using this package called as a pandas. But before we start even talking about pandas and something like a series and data frame, we want to connect to the MySQL database and get the things there, because I asked you to install maybe MySQL. You must have already installed it. So if you already have installed it, let's take an advantage of it. Let's get some data from our database, and then we can just perform the similar operations on pandas. So I can tell you, like, this is the SQL query you have executed. Now you are going to do the same thing here in pandas by using a concept called as a data frame. So it will be easy for us to map the concept from the RDBMS terminology to the pandas terminology. So let's do this quickly. Now, hopefully you already have installed MySQL. So I'm assuming it. And if you are already done with that, I'm going to go to my location where I can find the MySQL. And from there, I'm going to launch it. So mine is there in MAMP, library, bin. If you're on Linux or Windows, use that accordingly. Okay. SQL Server will be able to connect to Python. Yes, you can. We are doing it with the MySQL because MySQL being the free one. SQL Server is where you have to pay the licenses. I mean, I don't know whether you are paying the license or not, but still, SQL Server is again Microsoft product, and as usual, Microsoft means equals to something like a licensing. So that requires a licensing. That's the reason why I'm going for MySQL. That's the reason. Anyways, I'm going to launch my MySQL by saying MySQL -u root -p. My root password is root. So I can see that now I'm logged in with MySQL Pro. If you're not, if you don't have this installed on your machine, you can just watch what I'm doing here. If you already have got installed, then you can do it along with me. So let us continue and say how to create a database, how to add a table into it, how to put the data, and how to grab the data from the database. So let us do this very quickly. Okay. So here I'm going to create a database. First, let me see how many databases are there. So show databases will tell me how many databases are there. Maybe this is the default word, my store. I think I'm using it for the other batch. Notes, maybe that's okay. So I'm going to create a new database saying create database. A database name I'm choosing here is like person DB, or maybe persons DB. So this is the one which is going to hold all my tables. I'm going to put all my queries right here on your chat. So those who are writing code along with me, they easily can create the schema like mine. So in my person DB, I'm going to create a table. So this is, use person DB. Did I not create the one? Yeah, I did actually. So let's persons DB. So we'll have to say use person DB in order to perform all the next operations on this database. I'm putting all of these commands right there on your console, so you can go and grab from them. I want to create a new table. Say create a table named person. So there is a database called as persons DB, and inside that I'm creating a table called as a person. Every person I want to identify with a unique criteria, generally called as an ID, which is going to be an integer value. So ID integer, something like primary key, and I want to get this auto increment. So I don't want to pass any value for this ID column. I want MySQL to create an ID for me automatically. So auto increment will automatically increment the ID next time when you insert a new person data. Every person is going to have a name. So name will have a kind of a text data type, which in MySQL will be represented as varchar. And I'm going to specify that 100 characters long. So a name can have maximum of 100 characters. That's what I'm specifying here. Name, address, let's say again varchar, which is again 100, more than sufficient. I want to put an age, which is an integer value. So integer, that's fine. So we have ID, name, address, age, and let's add an email, and that's more than sufficient for us. Email again is varchar. So I think 50 characters is more than sufficient for us. And that's how we are going to create a table. So let me copy this, put that on your chat. If you're doing along with me, you'll be able to get that there. Great. So we have a database, we have a table. Now I want to insert some data into it. These are all my SQL operations we are performing here on MySQL. Then I'll perform similar operations directly from my Python, and we'll next perform all these operations by using pandas. So that's how we are going to go with it. Okay, so maybe we want to insert some data. So the query is insert into person. Person will have a name, person will have an address, person will have an age, and person will have an email. So I need to put all these values there. So again, values, person name is person1, person address is, let's say, address1 or whatever, let's say Pune, for example. And age is, let's say, 10, and email is like person1@test.com. So that's my first person data I have already inserted in my table. Let's add one more for testing. So this is person 2. Person 2 is having age 20. This person is from Mumbai, and the name of that person is person 2. So now we have inserted 2 person records. So basically, if I go back to the database and if I ask that table, like, how many records do you have? This is going to reply me saying, hey, I have 2 records. By saying this, select, maybe I'll say ID, sorry, I'll say ID, what the hell, ID, name, address, age, email, from person. This is the query which is going to give me all the data about that person. So all the records inserted in that person. This is called as a select query. So probably this is going to give me all the records from that person data. Now, if I want to select only, let's say, a couple of columns, not all. So basically here we are specifying all the columns. But what if I want to get only the person's name and person's email? So probably you can say select name, email from person. That's it. So this is the way we can create a kind of a query which will give me not all the columns, but only few columns, depending again on my requirement. So if I want to display only the person name against the email, this is how we can do it. Maybe when I select this query, select ID, name, age, blah, 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 it is going to give me data by, in a sorted order of ID. So maybe it's not even sorted order. It's kind of giving me the records as we have inserted them. But what if I want to sort those records? To sort those records, I'm going to come back here and say sort by, maybe I'll say sort by ID. By default, they are sorted by ID. I'm sorry, not sort by, it's order by. Sort by is for pandas. So order by ID. Order by ID is by default going to give me the data by sorting in ascending order of ID. But what if I want to get that in a descending order? So probably you may specify ascending or not. By default, it is ascending. If you want to go for descending, then we'll have to specify this as a descending. Descending, it's DESC. And you can see that now the second record comes first, then the first. And you can see that it's kind of sorting in ID by descending order. So that's the way you can do it. So you may specify this here as ASC. Look at your chat. I already have mentioned there. And if you are using DESC, that is going to sort your records by ID in descending order. You can do the same thing for age as well. So probably I can say, give me the records in descending order of age, or maybe you can give me, give me the records in ascending order of age by using ASC. This is a sort by record. Now, probably if I want to get only one record of a single person, not the all person, then we can say select all the information from person where maybe the name is equals to person1. Why I'm telling you all of this? Because I want to perform all these operations later in pandas. So later on, when you want to analyze your data, when you want to process your data, you have to do all these operations. Not every time you can connect the data, connect to the MySQL and perform all these operations, because you might not know whether the data is coming from MySQL or from other sources. Most of the times you are going to deal with something like a CSV format, and in that case, if I want to perform all these operations, we have to use the pandas package. So I'm just creating a kind of a foundation here so that you can understand what operations we can perform on pandas, which we already are performing on MySQL table. So probably I'm saying this is the where clause where I'm saying the name is equals to person. Maybe I want to see how many persons are eligible for voting. That can be done by saying where age is greater than or equals to 18. There is only one person right now who is having that criteria match. Maybe if I want to see how many people are not eligible for voting, I can say less than 18, and it seems like person 1 is not eligible for voting. So basically this is called as a where clause, which is going to get or rather which is going to select the records which match with that criteria. So I think there are many records right now, there is only one, but in this case this record is matching this criteria. So the age is 10, which means it is less than 18, so it matches with that criteria, and then it is getting displayed here. So basically whenever you are performing these operations can be performed directly by using pandas package. That's what we are going to do in a minute. But anyways, right now the data is in database and I can perform few operations here. Of course, I can insert data, I can delete data, I can update data, and I can select the data. So basically, whenever you are performing database operations, you may say there are only four type of operations we can perform. I'm not going database details. I hope you know all of these things. That's the reason why I asked you to do it. And this is applicable when you are kind of known to this world, database world. So there are four operations, C, R, U, and D. It's called as a CRUD operation. So what do you mean by C? C means it's a create operation. R means it's a read operation. U means it's an update operation. And D means it's a delete operation. So when you say create, I think we already have done that a minute before. We said that using a kind of insert record or using a kind of an insert query, we have created a record. So I can say insert into blah, blah, blah will create a record. How do you read the record from table? So probably we are using something like a select query. So select star from blah, 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 which is going to give me all records from that table. Now there is an update. Update means you can update an existing record. So you can say update table, whatever table you are going to go for, and then you can update it using your criteria. I'm going to show you an example of it in a minute. And finally, delete means you are going to delete an existing record. So you can say delete from table and whatever criteria you want to use here. So on database, you can perform only these many operations. So let's say this is the database right here. And this database we are using for performing all these operations. So you can perform only four type of operations there, like CRUD operations: create, read, update, and delete. So this is my database. In my database, maybe this is my persons DB we have created in MySQL. And this persons DB is having a table called as person, and that person table is kind of getting manipulated by using those four operations. So this is the database, and we are having a table here. Now when you say table is a kind of combination of vertical columns and horizontal rows. So probably I can say 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is what we have done there, if you can recall. So probably I can just put the column names there. It will be easy for us to remember what we have done there. So this is an ID column we have created. For example, right here, maybe we were having something called as a name. So we can use that here. We were having a kind of an address, which we can put here. Maybe we are having an age and email as well. So this is an age, and probably this is an email. So whenever you are adding the data will get added in terms of rows. Know this fact because this is exactly the similar representation we are going to have in pandas by using something called as a data frame. So that's the reason why I'm giving you an analogy here. So this is a MySQL data frame, MySQL table. Let me call it as a table. This is the person, and person is a table here. So in MySQL, the table which you create, the name in this case is person. The table which you create later in pandas, we are going to call it as a data frame. So as you insert the new record, these are the operations we are performing on the table. And as you perform these operations, you are kind of operating on this particular data, on this particular table. So when you say insert into, the new record gets inserted. Like this is one, which is an ID, which is person one, that's a name here. Excuse me. This is the Pune, that's an address, and this is age. We said that that was 10 somewhere here. I'm not having enough space to add it, so I'll say t.com. P1, that's person1 at the rate test.com, whatever it is. So this is the data which is now email. I'll just say p dot 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 dot. So you can understand that it's person at the rate test.com, whatever it is. So you see that whenever you are inserting a record, you are kind of adding a new row into the table. So know this fact that whenever you are talking about a table, table will always have vertical columns. Let me mention them here. These are the columns. These are the columns. So maybe I'm going to say this is the column, and all of them are representing columns. This is a column, this is a column, this is a column. All of them are columns. Please know this, because later on I'm just going to mention that a column here is a kind of column, exactly similar term we are going to use in data frame. So these are all my columns. Whenever you are inserting the records will get inserted by means of rows. So we are performing these operations, and we are going to install something called as a row. So this is a row. So probably we are having only one row at the moment, but as and when you add number of values, number of records, this will create a new row for you. So this is one row. If you insert another, this is going to create another row, so on and so forth. So basically, as and when you insert the data will be inserted in the form of a row. So please remember, when you talk about a table, table is a combination of vertical columns and horizontal rows. Okay, so being said that, let me just go back here and perform these two operations, update and delete, very quickly. So if I say select, as I said, star means give me all the columns from person table, it will tell me there are two records. Now, what if the person changes his address or changes his email? Let me say person 2 is now shifted from Mumbai to, let's say, Satara, now nearby. So how do I do this? To do this, I'm going to say update person. That's the table we are using here, where I want to set an address equals to Satara. That's the new address of that person 2, where I'm going to say ID is equals to 2, meaning person having ID equals to 2 shifted from Mumbai to Satara. Satara is a new address for that person. That's what we are kind of updating this query, updating this record by using this query. So you see that update person set address equals to Satara, where ID equals to 2, will change an address of person 2 from Mumbai to Satara. And if you don't believe me, let me just go back here, say select star from person. This is going to tell me that earlier the address was Mumbai, but now the address is Satara. So that's how we can update the record. Maybe, for example, we are talking about all the persons that I know. Maybe this person, maybe I have forgotten that person, or maybe this person is not in my contact, so I want to delete that contact from me. Maybe I had a fight with him, and I want to just delete him from my contacts, from my address book. So how do I do it? No problem. That's the last one we are talking about. I'm sorry, this is the delete operation. So delete from person, and when I say I want to delete that record where the ID is equals to 2, I can say person where ID is equals to 2. You might have seen that I'm using that ID column a lot. I'm using an ID column a lot because hopefully you can recall ID column is going to identify every single person record uniquely. You might have multiple persons with same name, and that will increase a confusion. That's the reason why we are not using name here, why we are using an ID column here. So when you are using ID, it's kind of the primary key, and primary key is going to identify every single record uniquely. Of course, you know this fact. I'm just telling you so that everyone will be on the same page. Anyways, so now you have seen that you are having all the four records right here. So all the four are not records, all the four queries here. Insert into query, I showed you that select star from update query and delete query. So I showed you all these queries there. So using those four queries, we can manage our table. Enough. I mean, there are many things. Again, we are not here. We are not here for a database. We are here for Python. So now I'm going to assume that you are already having the database knowledge, and you want to perform these operations using Python. Imagine you want to get the data programmatically, you want to store the data into a file or whatever. It all depends on you, what you want to do with that. But I want to do that using Python. So how do we do this? Now to do this, probably I'm going to go back to my PyCharm. Right inside my terminal, I'm going to install a new package. The package name here is like, again, sudo. If you're on Linux or Mac, if you're on Windows, you don't have to. Then say again, pip3 install mysql dot connector. So this is the package that you are going to install. On my machine, I'm already having it, so I don't have to worry about that. But on your machine, you are going to have, I mean, I don't know whether you have installed it or not. I hope you haven't. So you have to install that MySQL connector here. So get it installed on your machine. On Windows, just skip that sudo and use the same command. pip3 install mysql.connector. mysql.connector is the package that is going to provide me a kind of maybe you can say a driver with which I can perform all operations on that database. See, this is the scenario now. This is the database we are already having, and probably this is MySQL database. Now I'm talking from the MySQL context. You can use anything here. So probably this is MySQL database. Not necessary that it has to be MySQL. It can be Oracle, SQL Server, Postgre, Mongo, whatever you can think of. So this is a MySQL database. And this is MySQL. That's a reason why, let's say this is my Python application I'm going to write now. It can be anything. It can be a Python. It can be any language application. So probably this is where the Python application is. And I want to perform all these operations on that table. So how do we do this? So to do this, probably I'm going to come back here and say, hey, I want to install, I want to perform the operations by using my Python application. To do this, these are the operations we want to perform. But to perform these operations, probably we need to have a kind of a driver. So maybe you can do that using Python, or you can do that using anything, but you have to have the client version installed on it. By the way, you might have seen that I went to my command prompts and I used a MySQL utility, and that MySQL client utility has given me a command prompt where I was performing all those queries. So you are having the MySQL client here, which is providing a kind of a driver to connect to that MySQL server. So this is the MySQL server, which is creating a database, which is creating a table for me. And to connect to it, I'll have to go back here and use this client. So this is called as the MySQL client, or maybe you can say MySQL server client, or Postgre client, or Oracle client. This client version will be a database specific. So if you are using MySQL server, you have to use MySQL client. So this is the MySQL client. Now MySQL client is for maybe you can say database administrator, so that he can get the command prompt and he can perform all those queries. But we as a developer, we want to perform these operations programmatically. And to do this, we are going to install something called as a database driver. So basically the database for us is MySQL. So that MySQL driver is what we are installing with the help of this MySQL connector. So the one which we are installing, or the one which you already have installed now, which is mysql.connector, mysql.connector is nothing but the database, you can say database driver or MySQL driver, which will allow you to communicate with the MySQL database. So basically in Python, you are going to write this code and you are going to pass this to MySQL driver or MySQL connector, which is going to give you a chance to connect to the database and perform all the operations there. So basically you can perform all these operations on any other databases. Just remember that you have to use this database driver looking at the database you want to use. So I'm using MySQL, so I'm using a MySQL client. If you're using Postgre, you have to use Postgre's client. If you're using Oracle, you have to use Oracle's client. And if you're using SQL Server on Windows, you'll have to use SQL Server's client. Now, which client you want to use, that depends on the database, and where to find it. Just go on Google and say, connecting Python application to SQL Server. It will give you a link to install my SQL Server's driver, and then you can do the same job. Shripati, I think you want to do it in that way. So just find out the connector for your SQL Server, or probably Shrikant, you want to go for Oracle. Just search for Oracle driver or Oracle connector for Python. You will get it easily. Okay, so that's how we can do it. Probably if pip3 is not installed or it's not recognized as a command, Shrikant, then you can use something like a pip. So that's the reason I mentioned earlier as well. Hopefully you might have done that with the numpy by using the similar command pip3 or pip install numpy. Similarly, you can do the same thing here from MySQL connector. Anyway, so it seems like MySQL connector is installed on my machine, and hopefully it is now installed on your machine as well. So if it is installed on your machine, let us continue further and see if we can if we can get the things working here. Yes, that's good, Utpal. It's working fine for you. Pip. You can use pip3 or pip. Both of them are okay. Anyways, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to perform all these operations one by one. Maybe I'm going to do it in a different order. I'm going to start with the select one because select is the simplest one. So I'm going to start with this operation to get the data from the database, because we already are having some data. Some, in a sense, let me say how many. I think we deleted one, I hope. And that means I'm left with only one record. Yes, I can see there's only one record right here. That's fine. I can at least get this record, try to print it on console and see what can we do with it. So how do I do this? Now to do this, I'm going to start with one, that's page one.py, and there we will start performing all these operations. Now to perform all these operations, you will have to use this package. I hope you can still recall, for NumPy also, we were importing that package. MySQL.connector is also a kind of a package that we have to import. So probably you can say import MySQL.connector. So MySQL.connector is the one which is going to provide a connector which will connect our application to the database. So from my application, from Python application, I'm going to import that MySQL connector. The MySQL connector will help me to perform all these queries on the database table. So let us see how it can be done. Do we require admin permissions on DB to run the Python scripts in the real life scenario? Of course not. I'm using right now a root just because I don't want to create a different user for it. If you are already using a user, just use that user's username and password. Doesn't matter whether you are using admin or not. What matters here is the user you are going to use must be having enough permission to perform all these operations. That's a database specific operation, or database specific task. So unless you have a permission to execute those queries on the database, you will not be able to execute them right here in the Python as well. So probably Nidhi, yes, you have to have permissions, but not necessary that you have to use admin all the time. Please show which one to download MySQL. I think I mentioned that whatever is available on your machine, you can use it. But if you haven't installed that MySQL, you can install 5.8 if it is okay. If you want to go for 8.0, you can. But for 8.0, there are a few other things to do. So it's better you can install 5.7 or 5.8. Just install 5.7. That's a stable version. Client, you don't have to. So Utpal, you don't have to install any client. You just have to install this MySQL connector, just because you are kind of connecting to MySQL database using your Python application. And if you already have installed MySQL, by default, the client must have already been installed. So whenever you are downloading or whenever you are installing MySQL on any operating system, it installs both server as well as client. So the one which I was using here on my command prompt, it was a client edition, and probably behind the scene, it is contacting my MySQL server, which is creating the database for me. Of course, the table for me. So being said that, let's come back here into our code and let us try to perform some operations. This is my first operation. Let's say I want to perform the select query. So when I say select query, I want to perform the operation where I can get all the data from my table. So how do we do this? Very simple. I'm going to say select records. So here I want to select the records from the table person. So let us see how it can be done. Shripati, if you're looking custom fuller developer, I think you're talking from the SQL server's perspective. It depends on you. If you're looking from MySQL, you can go for the community edition. It's only one available for now. If you just go and download it. If you download the full version of MySQL, then packages connector will include in it. Not sure. It depends on the operating system. But I think it's better you can just install full version right now, and then you can continue with it. Okay. Python's part, you have to install it separately by using pip command. It has nothing to do with the MySQL you are downloading at the moment. Command to initialize the SQL for library. Yes, and that's what I'm going to do it here. Initialize SQL for library. Not sure what you're asking, Nidhi. If you want to go for this, then you can connect it to your you can connect it to your existing MySQL database by using MySQL. So again, if you're on Linux or Mac, you can use the direct MySQL command. You can say MySQL. Because I'm on Mac, I'm having a special installation here. So I'm going to use /. You are going to use directly MySQL, not you're not going to need this /. Say MySQL -u root. Root is the user which I'm going to use to connect to it. -p, which will ask you to enter the password, which I'm going to enter the password as root, and then I'm connected to the MySQL database. So Nidhi, if you're asking this is the command to do it. Okay. For Windows, you just have to say MySQL -u root p. You don't have to say /. If you're on MySQL, then probably you can download many different MySQL maybe GUI applications. So all depends on you. Guys, we are not here for MySQL. We are here for Python. Please, please keep this in your mind. I'm assuming that you already have database knowledge, and this is some extra things which I'm telling you here. More or less, it's like required when you are going in the industry and when you want to perform all these operations, which you can perform in MySQL using your Python application. That's what I'm showing you. Okay. So please do not ask any question related to MySQL, because it will unnecessarily waste your and my time. That's it. Otherwise, we will not be able to see what we are here to see for. Anyway, so coming here, I want to perform the operations like this. This is the first operation, select. Even though you don't have this installed here, that's perfectly all right, because anyways, you can create that database from your command prompt, or you can perform that operation right here as well. Anyway, so now it seems like we are having the MySQL connector installed. So probably cannot find the version that satisfied the required MySQL connection. No matching distribution found for MySQL connector. How is it possible? Where are you right now? Are you on Windows, or are you on Linux, or are you on Mac? Because if you are on Mac or Linux, it should work, because anyways, it's available for all the operating systems there. It should work. Just see if it is already, if you're using pip3 or pip. If you're on Linux, use pip3. Say sudo pip3 install MySQL.connector. You have to get, I mean, you can get it without having any problem, because this package is available for all the operating system. So if you just go back here and say a search for Python MySQL connector, just search for it and you will get it. So dev.mysql, where you can get it, or maybe there are various different options available, MySQL connector -Python, or maybe you can use this one. That's better. Use this one, MySQL connector Python. If it is not working for you, use this one, Ketan. So use this command, pip or pip3, install MySQL connector Python. Hopefully that will solve your job. Yeah, try that and probably get it installed. You can use MySQL connector. If it doesn't work, then go for MySQL connector Python. Ultimately, we want that to get installed on your machine. Anyway, so I'm assuming that it's already installed on your machine. So probably now I will start writing the code where we will connect to the database and perform a select operation. So how do I do this? To do this, the very first step is to connect to the database and open a connection. So here I'm going to say connect to the database. How do I connect to the database? To connect to the database, we are going to create a connection. We are going to open a connection by saying MySQL connector.connect. So connect is the method which will connect the database, and then I can perform all the operations I am looking for. So basically, connect will accept few parameters. Like one of the parameters is the host, where I need to tell the MySQL connector where is my database located. So I know my database is located on the same machine. So I'm going to say this is localhost. Localhost means the same machine. Next, we'll have to say which user you want to use to connect to the database. I'm going to say root. Root is my user to perform all the operations here. Ketan, that worked? Very good. Okay, next is the password. So which password you are going to use here in order to connect to that database by using the user root. So my user root's password is root. And finally, I'm going to say which database I want to connect. Probably we have created the database named persons DB. So I'm going to do it in this way. So this is going to open a connection. When I say MySQL.connector.connect localhost root persons DB, it is going to open the connection to the localhost MySQL server for performing all the operations on person's DB. Now what? Now you want to execute a statement. So the second step is create the statement or create the query, whatever you can call it as, query or statement. I'm going to say query for now, and I'll say that this is the query I want to perform. Select ID, name, address, age, and email from person. So this is the query that I want to perform. Now, how do I perform this query? To perform this query, I can first create the query and then say execute the query. Execute the query. Okay, so how do I execute the query? To execute the query, I need something called as a cursor. So to execute a query, first get the cursor. Now what is a cursor? Think about cursor as an in-memory table. In-memory table. So when I talked about last time regarding the table, I said that table is nothing but the collection of horizontal rows and vertical columns. This is the way the data is getting stored on the disk. The similar way, if you want to read that in a memory, that can be read by using something called as a cursor. Think about cursor as a kind of in-memory table, which you can use for performing all the different operations, like getting the data, selecting the values from the table, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to do that by saying cursor is equals to connection.cursor. This is the way we are going to get a cursor out of it. Now this cursor will tell me like, yeah, this is the in-memory table. Now you can perform any operations on top of it, you know. So basically when you're talking about this cursor here, maybe I can say the cursor is now what I'm looking for, or the cursor is something that I already have got here, which is going to perform all the operations I'm looking for. So basically I'm going to say cursor execute my query. So this is the way we are going to execute the query. See, we have performed a open connection statement where the connection got opened. Then we are creating a select query. Then we are maybe getting a cursor so that I can execute all my operations. So here, when I say execute the query, the cursor will give me, or cursor will execute the query and will give me the result. To get the result, I'm going to say get the query result. To get the query result, all we have to say here is like result, which is equals to cursor.fetch all. Sorry, cursor.fetch all. Fetch all means whatever result you have retrieved by executing that query, you can get that right here inside a variable called as result. Now I'm going to print that result on console, and you are going to tell me like what is the type of it. This is the result. We'll see how to process that result in a minute. Right now, I'll just say that process the result. We are not going to do it right now, but just for example, I'm going to say this is the result, and we'll see how to perform that operation, or maybe how to perform the processing of that result in a minute. But before that, I'm going to come back here and say I'm done with the code. Don't forget to close the cursor, like what we have said earlier while opening the file. Said file open file, perform the operation and close the file. Similarly, open the connection, perform the operation and close the cursor by using the cursor.close. And very important, again, close the connection. To close the connection, we can say connection.close, as simple as that. So when you are going to select the records from your MySQL table, these are the steps we have to perform one by one. Open the collection, create the query, execute, get the cursor, execute the query, get the result, process the result, close the cursor, and close the connection. That's it. Maybe I'm just going to go back here and say, call that function select records. Let us see what happens. How do we get the close cursor after each query? Yes, whenever you are done with it, not each query, but whenever you are done with the operation, before closing the connection, close the cursor and then close the connection. Let me see what happens. Oh, look at that. I got the record here. You see, this is square bracket, and within this, there is a parenthesis. I hope if you can recall something, I talked about list of tuples earlier. So that was a very special case I showed you earlier. And at that moment, I mentioned later on when we connect our data, connect our application to the database, we are going to perform the similar operation, list of tuples. If you cannot recall right now, Just go back, watch that video, and you will see that we already have talked about something like a list of tuples. Today, we are literally going to get the list of tuples, and then we are going to perform a kind of a for operation, and we'll get all the records there. By the way, I'm getting only first record because we have only one record in our database. Nevertheless, I can just go back here and insert one more record quickly. I'll say this is going to be an insert statement. I think we already have done that last time. Here it is. Maybe I'm going to install the third record. So this is person 3 having age 30, Mumbai, it's okay, and person address is Mumbai. So I'll say use person's DB. Forgot to do that. Insert this record, and if I say select star from person here, you might see that there are two records, record number 1, record number 3. Second record we already have deleted last time, if you can recall. That's the reason the second record is missing. Not a big deal. I'm going to come back to my Python application, and if I run this code one more time, you will see that earlier I was getting only one, but now I got two records here. So this is the first record, this is the second record, which means when I perform a select operation, I'm getting all the records there. How do I process that? How do I get the records? How do I put the records separately on my console here? Very simple. Instead of just printing the result, now I know that this is a list of tuples. It will be easy for me to get the data from the tuple by running a for loop. So when I say run, all of them are representing rows. So this is my row. So I'll say for row in the result. And then I can perform maybe a kind of select operation here. Like I want to perform like get name operation by using a name index. Maybe this is nothing but a tuple. I know that this is the tuple. On the 0th location, I'm going to get the person's ID. On the first location, I'm going to get the person's name. Second will give me the address. Third will give me age, and fourth will give me an email. So probably we'll start with ID. That's better. Sorry. ID, which is going to be something like a row of 0. So row of 0 will give me ID. You know why? Because it's a tuple, and tuple we will maybe we'll get the data index by index. So this is a row 1, something like this. Let's continue further and say this is going to be an address, this is going to be an age, and this is going to be an email. So address is on second location, age is on third location, and email is on fourth location. When I'm done, I'm going to put this dash here, so it will be easy for me to just separate the different rows. And guess what? This is the record for my first person. You see the ID is equals to 1, name is equals to person 1, address is Pune, age is 10, email is equals to blah blah. And this is my second record, which is having ID equals to 3, name is equals to person 3, so on and so forth. This is the way we are kind of getting the data from database, and we are kind of performing a select operation, and we are trying to print that record by using a cursor or maybe by using a list of tuples here. Now, because this is a list of tuples, I hope you can recall, I can easily do this job not by using this index, but by using a temporary name. What I'm saying here is, if this is a tuple, I know this is an ID, this is the name, this is an address, this is an age, and this is an email. For more information, watch the video I showed you earlier, because this is something which I already have shown you in a couple of different examples earlier. So for this tuple in the result, then you can perform the same operation, but instead of remembering the index position, I can use that variable ID directly. So this is how we can do it. So this is going to be name. This is going to be name. Sorry, name. Next is address, which you can do it here easily. Then we are having an age. That's an age. And probably we are having an email, and this is an email. That's it. So this is the way we can perform an operation, list of tuples. Of course, the result is not going to change. The result is going to be exactly similar, but processing becomes a little bit easier. I don't have to remember all the index positions. I can do it easily by using the variables. And that's the reason I already have shown you this example earlier, list of tuples. A little bit special example, we already have seen a couple of times earlier. We are taking a benefit of it, and then we are trying to print the records right here. So what you see here is a kind of a client application, a Python application, which is going to get connected to the MySQL database, and the database, on the database, we are performing a select operation. So that is selecting records. Okay, now what if I want to insert the record? Imagine that I want to get the input from user and I want to insert that record into my database table. How do I do this? Just give me a sec. What are you saying, Chandrakant? Data is inside the tuple, then the row can be updated. No, you can't. This is not meant for updating the records. This is meant for selecting the record. Updating will come in a minute. Okay, just hold your question. You will get the answer in a minute or two. Pranit, what exactly a cursor? Think about cursor is an object that will give me all the records which are present in a tabular format. So basically, cursor represents in-memory table. That's it. Nidhi, can we run a SQL script your file by using Python? You can, but for this you will have to read the file and pass that statement by statement to the actual code or to the actual cursor. Instead of that, you can directly start running this one here. But yeah, yes, you can do it if you are having a long query or if you are having already the already the file present. In that case, you still can do it. Okay. Anyway, so now we can see how to perform a select record. So let's continue further and do the same operation, similar operation on the table by using, let's say by using the user input. So we know how to get the input from user. So I'm going to take that benefit here and say this is going to be insert a record. So earlier we selected the records. Now we are going to insert the record. How do I do this? You know what? We are having five columns. Out of them, the first column is nothing but auto incremented. So I don't have to worry about this. So basically, I want to get input from user for these 4 columns: name, address, age, and email. So how do we do this? You know that, right? So probably I'm going to ask user to enter name, which we are going to store in terms of a variable name by using input. You know, what do you mean by that? So we already have seen this this kind of example where we were getting input from user. So this is going to ask user to enter, let's say, what do we need? Address. We can say address is equals to input. Next, probably I need, let's say, print again. Print. We need enter age. That's it. Age is equals to input. Doesn't matter whether it's a string or integer, because ultimately when it goes to MySQL, it will get automatically inserted as integer because of the data type we already have set on the table level. Next is where we are going to ask user to enter what? Name, age, email. That's the last one. So this is where I'm going to ask user to enter email, and we'll store that by using email variable. So now if you pay attention, we are having 4 variables: name, address, age, and email. Now I want to insert those values to the database. How do we do that? Let's do the same thing what we have done last time. You know, the very first step is open the connection. Maybe I'll say open the connection. How do we open the connection? We already have seen that. Connection is equals to, again, connector.connect, and then you can say the host here is localhost. The user here is a root. The password for root is root, and the database I want to perform operations on is the persons DB. That's it. So we have opened a connection. Now generally people forget to close the connection, so it's better we can say close the connection by saying connection.close. So generally when I write the code, I write it in this way: open the connection, close the connection, and in between this, we are going to perform all the operations. Don't perform any operation after you close that connection, which make a logical sense as well. I hope you can understand. After the connection is closed, how can you perform the operations? So open the connection, close the connection, and next you have to write the code in between these 2 parts. Okay, what do you want to do here? I can say create the query. You know how to create a query. Last time we already have seen that. The query here is going to be a kind of insert into. So insert into person. What do you want to insert? Let's say a name. That's a column name. Address, age, and email. The 5th column ID is auto incremented. We don't have to insert it. Values, we want to insert the first value, name, by using name value or the value which is there inside the name variable. Okay, so next one is an address. The next one is age, and the next one is email. That's it. So this is the way we are going to perform we are going to create the query. whatever query you have created here, the query needs to be executed. To execute the query, we are again going to say execute the query. To do this, we need a cursor. So get the cursor to execute the query by saying cursor equals to connection dot cursor. This is going to give me a cursor. Cursor is the way we are going to perform all the database operations. This is the way we are going to execute our queries. Okay, no problem. This is the query I want to execute by saying cursor dot execute query. That's it. That's it. We are done with it. But now there's a small change. Whenever you are getting the data from database, you're not modifying it. You don't have to commit the changes. Please understand this one more time. Whenever you are not changing the database, see, when database will change or when the table will change, you can change the table by inserting a record. You can change the table by updating an existing record like this, or you can delete a record and then also the database values or maybe the table will change. In a sense, the rows will change. So in these three operations, insert into, select, maybe update and delete from, in these operations, we are updating our database. We are modifying the database structure, maybe the database table values. In which case, it is mandatory for me to perform a commit operation. Unless you perform the commit operation, the data will not be saved onto the database. So this is a kind of mandatory part for remaining three operations. If you are performing insert, update, or delete, having a commit is mandatory. Here also you can put the statement, but it's not mandatory because we are not modifying the database in any ways. Here we are just selecting the values, so committing is not required. But here commit is mandatory. So I'm going to say commit the changes to the database or flush the changes to the disk. That's what you can say here. How do we do that? Very simple. All we have to say connection dot commit. That's it. So this is going to make sure whatever operation you have performed will be stored on the disk, so that the operation will have the permanent effect. If you don't write this line number 74, this is where you are going to, if you don't like this, this is where the operation will be performed, but data will not be inserted on the disk. Okay. Why we are having a formatted string on line number 65? Because I want to insert the values of these variables. That's the reason. I hope you can understand, Nidhi. Why we are using F here? Because we are inserting those name, address, age, and email values, right? It's okay. So now we are having the query. We have executed the query. We have a kind of committed the connection. And before I close my connection, it's important to close the cursor as well. So how do I close the cursor? You know that cursor.close, as simple as that. Let's go back, execute this code. What is the name? Insert record. So I'm going to say insert record. See what happens here. I'll do one thing. I'll just grab these function names or function calls in one single group here. For example, like this. Maybe we'll perform the insert operation and then we'll perform the select operation so that we can see whether the data is kind of, we are able to retrieve it or not. So let us go for the insert record. See what happens here. When I run my code, probably you can see that, I'm sorry, it's already running here. So it's asking me to enter the name. So let's say, what is the name of your person? Let's say Steve is the name of the person. Address, let's say USA. What's an age? Let's say 58. And what's an email? I'll say steve@apple.com. So I've inserted the record for Steve, and you see that the Steve has got a new row here. See, this is my select operation. I've called that select function from, you see here, select function right after we are done with inserting the record. That's the reason why the record got inserted, and immediately I can see the record on my console. If you go back here and if you select the persons from your table by running that same query on your MySQL interface, you still will get the data here, because anyways, the data is going to get stored inside the database. So you go from here or you go from Python application, doesn't make any difference. So yes, I can see the data. We are now able to insert it without having any problem. That's it. This is the way we can do it. As simple as that. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's insert one more record and let's see whether we can get the record immediately. Enter name. I wanted to enter the name like Bill Gates, but I accidentally inserted the value 3. It's okay. Enter the address. Maybe I wanted to enter the record like USA, but I by mistakenly entered UK. Age, it's okay. I can put that age like 64, 65, who cares? And email, I wanted to put that right, bill@ms.com. So I said that like this, and I got the data here. Actually, I did two mistakes. In a sense, I wanted to say Bill Gates, but here I accidentally put the name as person 3. And I wanted to change the address to USA, but accidentally I used UK. So now I have to, fix these mistakes. How do I do that? To do this, I'll have to go back to the next operation, which is nothing but updating the existing record. So we have the record existed now, but I have some mistakes there, or I want to change the data. How do I do this? To do this, we'll have to perform this update operation. Last time I showed that on MySQL command prompt. Now I'm going to show it here by using Python. See how it can be done. It's very simple, by the way. Whatever you have done there in SQL, in insert, you can simply copy and paste as well, but I'm not going to copy it because we are doing it for the first time. Later on, you can copy and paste as many times as you need. So this is update record. So how do I update the record? Again, the same story, open the connection. This is the third time we are writing this code. So by this, now you must have gotten it, like how to do that, the database operation here. Again, this mysql.connector.connect, same thing. This is the host, local host, user root, again the password root, and finally what? The database, So database is nothing but persons DB. This is something which we already have done last time, couple of times rather. It's okay. Again, before I forget, I'll say close the connection. To close the connection, we are going to say connection.close. I can copy and paste the code as well, but it's okay. This is where we are going to have a query. So I'll say create query. How do I get the query? It's the update query. So update query will look like update person. I want to change the name to, let's say, Bill Gates. Or you can get the input from user as well, doesn't matter. Next is an address. I wanted to change that address to USA, or you can get it from user, where, this comma is not required, where ID, what is an ID for that person? So probably ID is equals to, I guess, 5. Let's do it here. Yeah, this is the person I want to update. So having an ID is equals to 5. So probably I'll just go back here. I'll say where ID is equals to 5. I want to execute this query. To execute the query, you need to get a cursor. So I'll say get the cursor. This cursor will help me to perform my operation. Cursor is equals to connection dot cursor. And now I'm going to execute the query. So I'll say execute query. By saying cursor dot execute query, we will execute the query. Again, don't forget to commit the result. So I'll say commit the changes. And to commit the changes, we'll have to say connection.commit. And before you close the connection, we'll have to close the cursor. This is the third time we are writing this code. Probably you must have gotten it, like how to perform these operations. It's exactly same thing here. Now I'm going to first select the record. I'm not going to call this function right now. I'll first select the record. Seems like we still are having the record ID 5, name person 3, address UK 864, email bill@ms.com. Fine, it's okay. Now I'm going to perform this update operation. You see, this is an update record. And when I say run, probably, oh, it is giving me an error. There is an error here. What the hell? Name is equals to Bill Gates, comma, address is equals to USA, where the syntax near this. Oh, sorry, forgot that set keyword, my bad. Let us execute this code. Probably you can see that after updating the records, I'm selecting the record, and you see that now the record has been updated. Earlier there was person 3 and earlier there was UK. Now the person 3 changes to Bill Gates and UK changes to USA. As simple as that. So probably if I perform the same operation here, you can see the same change. Person 3 UK was the last value, or maybe that was a kind of a last state. Now the state is changed to Bill Gates USA. So that's a next operation we wanted to perform. It's already been performed without having any problem. Seems like the operation has got successfully executed, and something which out of the CRUD we have completed C, U, and D, not D, C, U, and R. Now we'll have to perform the D operation, maybe the delete operation. Let's delete some of the records. Let's say I want to delete this record here, say third record. How do I delete this record? Now delete the record, we are going to write a similar code. I could have copy pasted it, but it's okay. We are doing it for the first time, so I'm going to write it very quickly. This is where I'm going to say delete record or records. You decide what you want to do there. So if you do not, or if you use the where clause, it will install where clause accordingly. You can delete multiple records at the same time as well. Anyways, so let us see how it can be done. Again, here, create a connection. I'll say open connection as quickly as possible. I'll say connection is equals to mysql.connector.connect. Same thing again, localhost user is going to be the root. Password is going to be root for me. And finally, the database for me is personsdb. Okay, again, before I forget, I'll say close the connection by saying connection.close. It's better to copy paste the code, but it's okay. You can copy paste this code later. Next, create the query as usual. The query here will be a little bit different. The query here is a delete query, which means we'll have to say, delete from, delete from person, where you decide how you want to delete it. So probably, that's my bad. Database, here it is. Correct. Thanks for that, Shrikant. So you can say delete from person where ID is equals to 3. That's what we wanted to delete, So probably we want to again execute this query, which means get the cursor. Without cursor, you cannot execute the query. So get the cursor. To get the cursor, it's the cursor equals to connection.cursor, as simple as that. You know how to execute the query now. So I can say execute the query by saying cursor.execute query. And next, query. Next, without forget, you are going to commit the changes because you are updating the record. Updating in a sense, you are updating the database. You are deleting a record means you are updating the table. Fine. So to do this, I'm going to say commit the changes by saying connection.commit. And finally, before committing before closing the connection, I want to close the cursor. So I'll say close the cursor. To do this, I'm going to say cursor.close, as simple as that. You see, almost all steps are repeated again. So basically, whenever you are kind of deleting a record, you have to again perform the similar steps. See if it is possible for us to do it. Last time I was getting the records like 1, 3, 4, and 5, So now I'll run this code and we'll see what exactly the output here. So record must have got deleted, and that's the reason you see I'm getting the first, fourth, and the fifth. You see third record is missing. Third record is missing because we have deleted it. So probably if I just go to my database and perform the same operation, third record was there earlier, but now it's not available here. So you see 1, 4, and 5. Third record is missing here. That means this is the record which we have deleted last time. I hope you can understand that these functions are representing 4 different operations. So this is create operation, this is read operation, this is read operation, this is update operation, and this is a delete operation. So it's a C, R, U, and D I talked about last time. So you think of any different queries and all those queries will fit in one of the 4 categories, C, R, U, and D. Whatever you want to do, just fit them inside this particular set, and probably you will be able to perform those operations by simply copy pasting the code. So that is how the database operations can be performed in Python. Okay, can we use decorator to do all the opening and closing of the connection? Of course, yes, Sangram. If you are looking for that solution, that would be great. Do it on your own and see how you can turn this code into a simple decorator. So decorator will automatically open the connection and close the connection. Very nice. You can do that easily. We can do it right away as well, but it's okay. I'll give you this as an assignment. So you can do that on your own. Nidhi, is it possible to create a database using Python? As of now, the connection we are opening it for existing connection. To be precise, yes, you can just drop the database there and use the connection there. So it is possible, but generally we don't do that. See, ultimately, when you are writing a real life code, then you know that you first will create the database at the table schema, and then you will start performing these operations, which means always we will have one thing in our mind: the database is already created. Database generally we don't create programmatically because there is a risk. So again, when you already know the schema, it's always better to create the schema, I mean create the database and put the schema inside it, and then get the users input and then start dealing with the rows, instead of giving a chance to giving a chance for you the hell giving a chance to the user to perform the database level operations like create database, or maybe update the table or create the table. It's better we can just give a user to deal with the rows instead of dealing with the schema. And that's the reason why we always create the database schema first and then perform the row level operations with these operations. I hope you are getting the point, Nidhi, here. Okay. Yes, Chandrakant, you are saying it is a list of tuple. Records are stored in the tuples and tuple is immutable. Why it is updating? Chandrakant, you are sadly mistaken here, unfortunately, because database is already storing that data in the files. It's the Python, while perform these operations, is giving you a list of tuples. So if you look at the select operation, if you're talking about this one here, it is giving you a kind of list of tuples. It is at the time of retrieving the record, not at the time of saving the records. This is where you already have got the records. Just give me a sec. Let me update this diagram accordingly. Hopefully you can understand. So when you want to perform the operation, let's say you are performing an operation of insert. What are you going to do here? You are going to say, hey, just go ahead and insert the record. So the record will get stored in database format. This is not what Python is going to take care of, or this is not what Python is going to control. How to store the data, which file to store the data, what is the structure to get the data in, all of that will be decided by MySQL, because MySQL is the one where the data is going to get managed. If you want to get the data out of it, so you will perform that read operation, or you will perform that select operation. You say, hey, just give me all the persons. MySQL is going to read the data from the files and will give you in terms of rows and columns. Now, because you are in Python, for Python application, you are going to read that data as cursor. So basically, having cursor in place is something which we are dealing with a Python application. In a sense, when you are replacing Python with, let's say, something like a JS or something like a TS code or something like a C# code, you will have different thing there. I hope you are getting what I'm trying to say here. So Chandrakant, we are using list of tuples because we are getting the data from a cursor, and cursor gives you a list of tuples. This is not the database. Database is storing the data in terms of maybe the flat file structure. It's not like we have to deal with that. It will be the job of MySQL here. So only from the Python's perspective, we are performing all the operations through an entity called as a cursor. Okay, so don't get it wrong. This is a kind of list of tuples for retrieving the records, because once the data is retrieved, if you want to update it, you'll have to go back again and perform one of the queries. So this will not allow you to change the data. That's the reason why it is a list of tuples. Okay, how we can integrate all these operations? I think I showed you here, Adesh. We are already having them right here. So you can execute that code as per your requirement. So whenever you need it, just use that call that function and you are done with it. Okay, so now you know how we are performing these operations on database. Now we'll go ahead and we'll do the similar stuff by using pandas, So let's see how it can be done. Nidhi, you are saying, do we face any issue with the cursor when fetch all gives hundreds of thousands of records? Not at all. Not at all. Even if you're having hundreds of thousands of records or millions of records, still there is no problem, because this is, it depends on how much configuration you are having on that machine. If you are performing a data which is going to be very large in millions of rows, then probably you will have to perform that operation on a nice configuration machine. Otherwise, you know what is going to happen, So we don't have to worry about that. Python is going to take care of it. Yes. So this is a kind of demonstration of how we can perform all these operations using MySQL. Utpal, for pandas, SQL is not required. This is a kind of a separate package I'm talking about, or I talked about. So this is the separate package. You know, we are talking about the packages. We already have seen something like a NumPy. We are going to use something called as pandas. We are going to use something like a Selenium and other stuff. So this is one of the packages called as MySQL connector, which is going to give you a chance to connect to MySQL database. So basically, whenever you are performing operations in Python, you can perform those operations by using different packages. This is one of the packages we have seen. For you, I mean, using pandas, you don't need SQL. You don't need to understand SQL. But why did I talk about that? Because when you are going to write real life applications using any language, connecting to database is kind of mandatory stuff. And those who are developers developing applications for the companies, they might agree with me. So whenever you are talking about the real life applications, one of the other times you have to persist the data. And when you are persisting the data, database is the only way you can do the stuff. That's the reason why I showed you how to connect your application to the MySQL. Having this in kind of your, I mean, having a knowledge about this will give an advantage when you are going to deal with pandas. Okay, but it's not a mandatory part to understand how pandas work. Pandas work in the similar fashion. Okay. Okay, Ketan, you're saying, will there be any problem with dealing with the foreign key, primary key? Not at all. For you, when the data is retrieved using a cursor, you are going to get the data in terms of list of tuples. So even if there is primary key or foreign key, it's not going to bother you a lot, because ultimately that is a database, the database developers or database designers concept. We don't have to worry about this. Generally, when you're writing applications in the industry, most of the times I'm talking about, you will have different teams working on different parts of your application. One team is going to work on the front end to design the user interface. One entity or the one team will work on the back end, which is going to deal with the database and stuff. And another team, which is going to do the same job for database designing, database creation, database designing. The person who does it generally known as the database administrator. So that's how we are going to separate these tasks. So administrator will take care of setting the foreign key, primary key relationships and stuff like that. We don't have to worry about that, the cascading delete and all of that stuff, or of creating the triggers and all of that stuff. Ketan, we don't have to worry about this because that's a job of database administrator. We don't want to be a database administrator here. We want to be a Python developer. So for me, how to connect to database and perform this operation matters a lot, rather than how to create the schema, how to take care of deleting, or how to take care of setting the relationship and all of that stuff. That's a database administrator's job. Database administrator will get paid for that, not you. Jokes apart, your job is to perform those queries, perform those operations using those queries, and this is what we have seen in this particular application here. Tanya, can we also convert to the NoSQL database? Yes, of course, we can connect to the NoSQL database. I'm not going to show an example of it because I'm not sure how many of you already know it. So probably if you want to do it, just search for Python Mongo. There is a package called as a PyMongo, which can be done easily by doing almost similar job. Concept is going to be a little bit different. Concept in the sense, NoSQL concept a little bit different, but still the Python documentation also have given you how to do it. Import PyMongo. PyMongo is the package with which you can do that operation on NoSQL database like MongoDB, and you can perform all these operations here. So if you're already aware about NoSQL, you see how you can perform those collection, or maybe inserting collection, deleting document from a collection and stuff like that by using this operation. So that's the page you can refer here. As you change the database, driver will change, the concept will change, but ultimately concept remains same. Okay, so here maybe you're talking about Jenica. You're saying if we have a fetch data, what? If we have to fetch the data from number of tables, then what would be the good practice? One connection and run all the queries, or multiple collections? When you want to get the data from multiple tables, most of the times you will go for relationship. Like you want to join the multiple tables and get the data. That way you can write only one single query and you can execute that using one connection. But if they are not related, and if you really are getting the data from different connections, then it's always better to go for multiple executions on the same connection. Keep the connection only one, so that you don't have to open and close the connection every now and then. I hope you are getting my point, Jenica. So if you want to perform multiple operations, perform them sequentially. If you want to perform them parallelly, only then go for multiple connections, but otherwise you don't have to. Okay. Having multiple connections will unnecessarily increase your part or your management, because there we'll have to open and close multiple connections, which will be a kind of a heavy job. That's the reason why it is discouraged. Anyway, so now we know how to perform all these operations on database. Now the time has come to talk about something called as a pandas. So let us continue with the second page here, where we are going to perform all, not all of these, but at least few of these operations on pandas table, on pandas, not table, data frame. It's not possible for me to complete all the operations here in pandas by today itself. We are going to split that in tomorrow's part as well. So today we are going to see the basic level part. Tomorrow I'll talk about few more examples, and then we'll talk about the matplotlib tomorrow. Anyways, so come back here, and now we want to install that pandas. I already have given you the command last time. If you don't remember it, this is the way we can do it. Sudo hpip3 or pip, whatever command that works for you, depending on operating system. I can say pip3 install pandas. My case, already I'm having it installed on my machine, so I don't have to. So probably what the hell? So probably when you are caps lock is on, that's the reason. Okay, so when you are installing it, you just have to use that command and it will get installed here. On my case, it's already installed, so nothing is going to get installed on my machine. So use this command, get the pandas installed, and see how it can be used here in order to perform similar operations. Okay, so what is pandas? A pandas is known as Excel for Python, or maybe generally it is known as Excel on steroid. In a sense, whatever operations you can perform on Excel, creating the columnar data, or maybe selecting the columns or sorting the columns and stuff like that. All of these operations can be done by using pandas, and rather pandas perform them very easily and with better performance than Excel. So basically, when you talk about a pandas, I'll just mention here, pandas, by the way, that's the name of it. It's not like there is one panda and there are multiple pandas. That's the name of that library, pandas. So pandas is a library. You can think of it as an Excel for Python. Now, when you want to deal with pandas, there are two data types. Actually, there are three, but we are going to see only two of them because third is not very popular. One is called as the series, and the second one is called as the data frame. So data frame is kind of a table that we just have seen in MySQL. Similar stuff, if you want to perform by using pandas, we'll have to go for a data frame. But the data frame is made up of series, and that's the reason before we talk about the data frame, it's mandatory for us to talk about a series. So let us see first a series example. Let's see what series is, how series is created, or how we can manage that series. And then data frame, we'll take a look at it right after we are done with the series. Now, what is a series? A series is a one-dimensional array. If you can recall something called as a NumPy array, it can be a one-dimensional, it can be multi-dimensional. So probably if you can recall last session, we talked about how the array is getting created behind the scene. What are the different properties like ending, shape, and all of that stuff we have seen last time. So similar array will be used here in terms of series with a small change. Now what that change is, I'll show you that here. So maybe I'm going to say that import pandas as a PD. Now generally when we are importing NumPy, you say import NumPy as NP. This is something we have seen last time. So today we are going to say import pandas as PD. So whatever operations we want to perform on pandas, we are going to use that name, alias there. That's kind of a PD there. So PD.series, PD.dataframe, and so on and so forth. So when you talk about this pandas, pandas is developed on top of NumPy. Let me mention this here. It's kind of developed on top of NumPy. So internally it uses NumPy. Without NumPy, you cannot create a series. Without NumPy, you cannot create data frame. So internally, pandas is using NumPy. It's not like we have to include this statement here. Even if you don't have it, it's still okay. It's just for your understanding, I'm telling you that this is a kind of a NumPy array and this is a kind of a pandas series. I just want to compare them. That's the reason I'm importing it. Having NumPy as NP is not required when you are dealing with pandas alone. Okay, so please remember that. Otherwise, you will not, you don't just misunderstand that like for pandas, NumPy is mandatory. NumPy is mandatory, but it is going to get imported automatically behind the scene. I don't have to worry about it. Anyways, let me start writing a very simple function here. This is function 1. I'm going to deal with three types of collections here. That's the list collection we already have seen in Python. That's a NumPy array collection we have seen last time. And today we are going to talk about the very first one-dimensional array or one-dimensional collection that's called as a series. Now, when you say list, let's say it is L1, which is kind of square bracket, set 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. As simple as that. Array, you know how to create an array. It's A1 equals to np dot array, and then we can pass the same records 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So probably this is the way we can do the job. We are going to create a list, we are going to create an array, and we are going to now create a series. How do I create a series? To create a series, I'll say S1 equals to PD for panda, dot series. Series S is capital. That's the data type which is provided by pandas in order to create a one-dimensional collection. So probably series is where I'm going to pass the similar values. Let's say 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. So let us see what happens with all of these collections here. So probably again, as usual, I'm going to say what is L1, what's there in that L1, and what's the data type of it. So type is equals to, again, the type of L1, as simple as that. There's nothing different we have seen in the earlier programs as well. So this is the same thing again. Try to put that A1, that's an array. We want to print here, data type of it. And now we want to do the same thing for series. S1, S1, and S1. See the difference amongst all of these collections. So I'm going to call that function one here, and we'll see what happens. Pay attention. When I say run, you will notice that we are having three types of collections. One is the list, which is kind of provided by Python. Second one is an array, which is provided by NumPy. This is numpy.nd array. We already have seen last time. And this is something called as a series. Now, series is provided by pandas. This is one of the core data types in pandas. There are two data types. One of them is series, and the other one is called as a data frame. So probably when you are talking about getting a series in picture, this is how it looks like. So you see that series is having two things, not one. Series is having two things. One is like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the index positions, and 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Those are the values stored on those positions. Now, if you just quickly see what is going to happen behind the scene, I'll just show you very quickly. See if you can understand. Okay, so let us see how it can be done as quickly as possible. Maybe I'll just get the series here, get the list here, get the NumPy array, and then get the series. Let's see what is the difference here. Very, very, very simple, but required. So let us see how it can be done. So there are three things here. One is the list, the second one is array. Actually speaking, a list and array, both of them are going to get stored in a similar fashion for accessing purpose. You know what happens behind the scene when you go for a series, when you go for a list and a kind of array. And I hope we already have seen that diagram last time somewhere. I don't know whether I've stored that somewhere or not, but I hope I did last time. Just give me a sec. Let me go back to the workshop, Python 4. Let's go back to the notes, and somewhere I showed you this example. Exactly. So this is what you see here in terms of a list. So let me just get that list here as quickly as possible. And let us put that right here. So basically, when you talk about a list, this is how the list is getting created behind the scene. So this is a representation of a list. Very, very, very simple. Now let us see how an array looks like, NP array looks like. So basically NP array, let me just go back here and quickly see. It's already there actually. It's better we can open this one. So let us understand this from array point of view, NumPy's array point of view. So this is a NumPy's array. I can see that very easily, or it's very simple to understand as well. So this is how the values are getting stored behind the scene. Maybe I'll just copy this as it is and we'll put it right here. So this is the representation of NumPy array. Now let us understand what happens with the series. Series is another collection we are using here, and it is having a completely different interpretation, completely different way to store the data. So watch what happens here. I'll do one thing just for a second or two. I'm going to put it aside. We'll put it somewhere on the top. So I'll have enough space for series, that's it. And then I'll just put this right here. So this is a list, you can see. This is an array, you can see here. And now we are going to deal with a series here in pandas. Let us see what happens in the pandas. In pandas, for us, technically speaking, for us, it is going to store two things behind the scene. So you can think of it as a kind of a series. This is, I'm sorry, this is the series. I'll do it horizontally instead of going for vertical. So what does it do? It stores two things behind the scene. How does it do that? We don't have to worry about it, and simply speaking, we don't care about that. What do we care about? We care about how to retrieve the values from that series. So that is more important for us. So we are going to say that the values are getting stored in this way. So there is a value like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Those values will get stored in the series format. How? We'll show you that in a sec. So this is the data that we wanted to store, and let us see how the data will be stored in the series format here. So this is the data. Pay attention to the data, how the data is getting stored, because this is a little bit different than what we have seen earlier, you know. So let us come back here and say this is the data somewhere here. I'm going to put a partition. This is the first one. This is the second one. Maybe this is the third one here. Maybe I'll say this is the fourth one. And finally, this is the fifth one. So this is the data that we are kind of creating here. Look at the difference between all of these representations. So these representations are given by different ways or different formats. This is the series I'm talking about. Naturally, it will have its own reference as usual. And this reference will have the address of that. So probably it is going to point to this one here. And probably this is how we are going to get the values from that. So this is already having its address. And I'm not going to repeat the same story here. What is more important? This is more important. So probably I'll say that this is 0 here. Probably I'll say this is going to be 1. This is going to be 2. It's better we can do it in 1 by 1 series. This is index value. Index value is where the values are kind of maintained here. This is index 0. This is index 1, probably. See that right here? This is index 1. This is index 2. This is index 3. And this is index 4. So you might wonder what's the difference here, because last time also you said the same thing. Like whenever you are creating a collection, by default it will start with the index, that's 0. And then on that index, you will see a value stored in that collection. So there is, I mean, till now there is no difference, because you see the index positions are exactly similar, like 0 to 4. If you look at this series here, series is going to have two things. One is called as index. I'll say index. And the other one is called as values. So please remember this. There is something called as an index and there is something called as a values. And these two things are separately stored for us. Whenever you want to get the value, you have to know the index of it. So probably you can say that this is now index and this is now values. So values are storing the values on a particular index, and index are the positions where the values are getting stored inside the series. So this is the index part and this is the values part. Let me show you what happens behind the scene. So coming back here in my code, I think we have seen that. Now I'll just put this in comment and let's focus only on the series part. So I'm just going to go grab this here, series, and we'll see what happens now. So this is the series. If I try to put that series, we already have seen that that's a series now. So if I just try to put that series S1, and if I look at the function 2, let's see what does it show. It shows me that there are two things, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So basically what we are trying to say here is like a series is one-dimensional array, which is having two things, index and values. Can I separate them? Of course, yes. You can say print s1.index and print s1.values. Sorry, values. What the hell? Values. I think it's better we can just mention that this is an index, which is equals to this. And let's grab this and say this is going to be values equals to values. Let us see what does it show. This is the actual representation of a series starting from here to here. It also shows the D type. You know what D type means? D type means it's a data type and it's exactly similar, integer 64, because it is using NP array behind the scene. Now, what is an index here? Index here is kind of telling me the start is 0 and stop is 5 and step is 1. You know what do you mean by that? It means index value starting from 0 and it is getting incremented by 1 up to 5. Fifth value will not be included. It's like 0 to 4 will be the index values you can find in the index. Looking at the values, it tells me the values are like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So these are the values 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. If you look at the diagram, this exactly is representing the same stuff. Index is from 0 to 4 and values is from 10 to 50. So that's what you are getting here when you look at a series. Again, the same story is available here as well. Like what is the endim, sorry, endim. You know what endim means? It's n dimension. So you can say something like endim. You can also look at all of these properties, like what is the D type or what is the shape and so on and so forth. I think it's okay. So this is going to be D type. I can just use that D type here, and I can use the shape here. So probably if I look at that, it is telling me that endim is equals to 1. That means it's a single dimension or one dimensional array. The data type is integer 64 and the shape is 5. You can understand this now because we already have seen NumPy last time. So in NumPy, endim means how many dimensions you have. If it is multidimensional, you can see more than one value. This is a single dimension. That's the reason why you see the endim is equals to 1. That's what I said earlier. A series is one dimensional array, which is built on top of NumPy array. Now you might ask the question, like if NumPy is already providing one dimensional array, why on the earth series is required? Or why on the earth pandas is required to create one more object or one more data type called as a series? There is a reason behind this. Let us see how we can get the values from that series. So probably if I want to say S1 of 0, I can come back here. I can say S1 of 0. What do you mean by that S1 of 0? S1 of 0 means you are going to look at the index where the 0 is present, and you are going to go to that location and you are going to get the value 10, which you can find here. Let me come back and look at the last value, say value 4, value 4. So again, you are going back to the index position, you are finding the value 4, and what is the corresponding value assigned on that particular position is what you are going to retrieve here, and you will put it here. So S1 of 4 is equals to 50. That's it. So whenever you're talking about S1 of 0 or S1 of 4, that means you want to get the value of index where the index position is 0 or where the index position is equals to 4. So probably when you say index of 0, maybe the S1 of index 0 is 10, S1 of index 1 is 20, so on and so forth. Index of S1 4 is equal, so the value at index 4 is equals to 50. That's what we try to put here. Okay, so let's answer that question first. Like, what is the difference between a NumPy array and series? I mean, why do we need a separate one-dimensional array if one is already provided by NumPy, which works flawlessly? Let us understand this now. Let's say this is my third function where I want to go for creating a simple array. Now, imagine that maybe I have, let's say I have two arrays. Let's say one array is talking about cars. Let's say the car names, say I-20 for example. Maybe I'll say, which one should I go for? Let's say Toyota. And let's use one more. Toyota is the company. Let's say Innova. And let's go for someone like I-10 for example. And let's go for NAN. So I have a cars collection here. Now, along with the cars collection, I also want to store the data like mileage, or maybe something like maybe mileage or something like a price, whatever. So let's say we are going to use the prices example. I know the I know here the I-20 is going to cost, let's say 7.5 lakhs. Innova is going to cost, let's say 20 lakhs. I-10 is going to cost, let's say 5.5 lakhs, and Innova is going to cost, let's say 2.5 lakhs. Actually speaking, I don't want to go for dictionary. I mean, I would have gone for dictionary. I would have created I-20 as a model, price as 7.5, and I would have put that in a collection of dictionaries. I could have, but I don't want to. I want to manage them separately. Why? Because let's say I'm getting one data from one location and other data from other location. Or let's say we are having two tables, and the tables, we are having one table having two columns, and this is representing the first column of that table, and this is representing the second column of that table. So now I'm having two arrays here. So understand that we are having two arrays here. It can be two collections or it can be two NumPy arrays. Doesn't matter. Even if you are going for a NumPy array, that is also okay. So NP array is also fine with us. It's not a big deal. What is more important here is to separate them into two different arrays. Now, what if I want to print the maybe the I-20's price or Innova's price or I-10's price or Nano's price? How do I do this? You do this by running a for loop. Maybe you can say for index in the range, which is starting from 0 to Maybe you can say the length of anyone, because both of them are absolutely having the same number of records. So maybe I can say for index in the range of length of cars, you can say print, say this cars of index has price equals to prices of index. I hope you can understand. Here we are trying to get the index position to get or to retrieve the values from both the different arrays, cars array and the prices array, because I want to relate that item 1 is price is 7.5 and Innova's price is 20, i10 price is 5.5 and Nano's price is 2.5. That's why we are writing the code like this. If I run this, probably you can understand it is going to do the same job like what I was thinking about. So probably I'll just go back here, we'll run this application and it will tell me that yes, maybe i20 has a price 7.5, Innova has a price 20, i10 is having 5.5 and Nano is having a price 2.5. Everything works as per our expectation. But imagine later on I add a couple of more cars. Let's say I'm going to add a car like X5 BMW, and let's say, what do you want to add? Let me add the Range Rover, for example. And I'm not sure what is the price of X5, but I know the price for Range Rover. Accidentally, if I just say that the Range Rover's price is almost like 85 lakhs, for example, in that case, I don't know the price for X5, so I'm going to discard it. I'm going to not mention the price of X5 because I'm not sure about it. I'll go for the Range Rover's price. But hopefully you can understand, when I run my code, my application will simply crash. It will crash because I have the Nano's price. I don't know the X5 price, but it has taken that 85 for X5. And for Range Rover, there is no index position left in that prices. That's the reason my application is crashing, because 5 is out of index. And that's the reason why we have now come up with an idea that you have an array which is storing the cars position, cars model, and the another array which is storing the cars prices. Both of them are related together. If they are related together, then it makes sense to kind of relate them in one single array instead of separating them into two different arrays. What I mean by that, I meant by using i10, i20, Innova, and all of them are associated with the prices, or prices are associated with the models, whatever you can say there. So basically what I'm trying to say here is, if you are having a kind of, the association here, you will never forget, X5, I don't know the price here, so I'll have to put the price is equals to 0. If I miss this position, my application will crash. Means I know these are two kind of related data or related values, and I want to relate them. Instead of creating separate arrays like this, I want to relate them by putting them into one single array. How do I do that? This can be done by using a series. Watch what happens. This is completely different. Please pay attention. This is going to be function 4, where I need both of them, the cars and something like prices. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to come back and say, hey, I want these cars. You don't even have to create a NumPy array. We can still continue with using a simple collection like this, a collection like list, and you can deal with this as well. So probably what I want to say here is, I know cars and prices are kind of related together. So I want to put them, both of them together in one single array, one single dimensional array provided by pandas, which is called as a series. So how do I create a series here? I'll say S1, which is equals to, we can say pd.series, and I can put all the cars there, so maybe I can put the cars or I can put the prices. Let's put the prices first. So maybe I can say prices is the value, or prices is the collection I want to put inside S1. Watch this. I'm going to go a little bit slowly. I'm going to show you the output at every single step, because I want you to understand this. Look at that. So this is my function 4. And if I say run, probably you can see that it is storing all the prices: 7.5, 20, 5.5, 2.5, 0.0, and 85.0. The index positions will start from 0 by default, where you are not specifying the index. So by default, it will start from 0 up to 5. Nothing different. I mean, in other collections also, you would have seen the same thing. It's okay. Now, the main thing comes here. As I showed you earlier, in case of series, there are two things. One is called as an index, and the other one is called as a values. Values are the values you are storing, and index are the positions with which we can retrieve the values or manage those values. Okay, so what I'm saying here is, I know the prices are the values I wanted to store, but instead of storing them on positions 0 to 5, I want the series to consider the index position as not the 0 to 5, but index positions as my cars. Oh, what do you mean by that? Watch this. When I say run, this time it is going to store the values 7.5, 20, 5.5, 2.5, 0.5, and 85.0. You see that all of these values are getting stored on these index values, these index positions. I-20 is the index position for 7.5. Innova is the index position for 20. Maybe I-10 is the index position for 5.5, so on and so forth. Oh, I know it's a little bit difficult to digest for the first time. How can you have an index which is non-integer? Because most of the times in all the languages, or even in Python also, we have seen that index positions are always integer. This is the first time we are going to deal with a kind of a collection where we are having an index which is different than a integer there. So this is the fact that the values, price values, are stored on index values which are not integer. These are the string values. Guess what? This is the index position for 7.5. This is the index position for 20.0. What do you mean by this? This means, let me just go back here and show you what happens so that you can easily guess what is the current scenario here. So this is what is going to happen behind the scene. When you create this example, actually speaking, I'm going to show you that in a kind of vertical orientation. You can do it in the horizontal as well, doesn't matter. But vertically, it will be easy for me to show them. So probably what I'm going to do here is this. I'll say that I have the values like I-20. I'll just format them in this way. So this is I-20, Innova, I-10, maybe Nano. Then there is a price, I'm sorry, there is a X5, and then there is a Range Rover. That's it. So we are having the values like this. Okay. Now probably I'm going to say the values, these are not the values, they are the index positions. The values are going to get stored like this. This is 7.5. Maybe this is 20 here. You know, this is 5.5. That's for I-20 for, sorry, I-10 for example. This is 2.5 for Nano. X5 is missing. So probably I'll just go back and say 0 here. So as simple as that. So this is 0. Maybe I'll just use this one and change it to 0. Yeah, that's it. So this is the way the values are getting stored behind the scene, you know. So that is a Range Rover, which is again 85.0 or 85, whatever. So this is the way the array is going, the series is going to get created behind the scene. Please understand that. This is the way the values are going to get stored behind the scene. Out of them, the left hand is nothing but something called as an index positions, and the right hand side is nothing but the values you want to store. So this is a kind of a series you are getting here. So this is the series, and the series is having two things. One is called as the index positions, and the second one is called as the values. And I showed you both of them here. See if you can understand. So this is kind of index positions, or simply say index. This is the one, and these are all my values. So by default, values we are storing here are numbers like 7.5, 20, so on and so forth. And the index positions, these are kind of non-integers. So these are kind of strings. I don't care about that, but it's okay. Let me just put them quickly so you can understand that Innova is the index position for 20. I-10 is the index position for 5.5. Maybe Nano is the index position for 2.5, and X5 is the position for 0. That's it. What do you mean by that? That means whenever you want to deal with this, you want to get the values, you have to deal with the index values here. What do you mean by that? If I want to get the value 7.5, how do I get this? I'll get that by using I-20. How do I get 20? I'll get it by using Innova. Oh, really? Yes. Just come back here and see this. Print. Let's say maybe I-20 price is equals to, for the first time, I'm going to do it in this way. See, S1 off, right inside this S1, I'm going to say I-20. So I-20 will give me the price of I-20. If you just run your code, you will see that it is telling you the I-20's price is 7.5, and which is absolutely true. You see, I-20's price is 7.5. So very precisely, I'm going back here. I'm just finding out where the I-20 is, and then I'm getting the associated value for that index. So the index here is I-20. The value associated with that index is 7.5, and thus I got the value 7.5. So this is the way the values are kind of stored behind the scene. Let's give it one more try. Let's say, what is the price for Range Rover? So I'll say the Range Rover price. This is case sensitive, so you'll have to literally copy and paste it. So S1, right inside this is the Range Rover. I'm just going to copy paste it just to avoid some spelling mistakes and other things. And you see that the Range Rover price is 85.0. This is very true. You see, 85.0 is stored on the index of Range Rover. This is the way series is created behind the scene. Series is having, though it looks like it is kind of a two-dimensional, it's not two-dimensional. This is a single-dimensional array. That's a one-dimensional array. What's the proof? We already have proved that last time. If you can recall, last time I tried to print the endim, and endim was telling me that there is only one dimension here. The index values are separately stored. How? I don't care. But what do I care about is the way the values are getting we are getting those by using the index positions there. So that is more important for us. So if you try to put the, just a sec. If you try to put the code here, it is going to go back and try to get the values based on the positions, based on the index value. So basically, I-20 is where we are going to look for the index position. This, it is going to get the value from this particular position, and this particular is going to get the value from this position. So that's how the values will be retrieved, you know. So that's how the Range Rover is going to give us the value we are looking for. That's it. This is the Range Rover's position. This is the index position, and this is the values. If you do not specify a kind of index here, by default it will be 0. So if you do not specify anything, it will be 0, and your application will crash. Your application will crash because you do not have any position or any index value having I-20 there. So I-20 is not the index anymore. You see, index is 0, index is 1, index is 2, and so on and so forth. This is the way you are combining two arrays which are associated together. So we are having an index, we are having a values collection. Both of them we are kind of adding together in order to associate them. So if you want to associate them together, you can use this series object. And please remember, series is not multidimensional, it's a single dimensional array. I hope you are getting it. Is it a kind of dictionary? I don't care. I mean, for us, it's not a dictionary. For us, it's one dimensional array. How it is maintaining behind the scene, we really don't have to worry about that. I mean, conceptually, it is like a dictionary having two key value pairs, or rather having a key value pair there. So key is nothing but our index, and value is nothing but our value. But this is not a dictionary. If it is a dictionary, then there are many different operations which are not possible. So this is not a dictionary. This is still world dimension array. The only difference here is the index can be manipulated. If you do not specify the index, by default it will start from 0. But if you want, you can change that index accordingly. Now you might ask this question, like, why on the earth do you need it? Now we'll see that later, but just to be honest, let me just go back to, what the hell is that? No, I didn't modify this one. So when you look at this particular code, here it is. So you will see that this is a kind of a column. This is a kind of a column. This is a kind of a column. And the columns are represented as series in pandas. If you add multiple series together, if you add multiple columns together, what you get is a table in MySQL. Here, if you add multiple series together, what you will get in pandas is called as a data frame. So in order to create the data frame, we have to understand what series is. And series can be created by using any collection. So this is a way we have created that series by using a list. Okay. The memory representation of series, I already have shown you here. This is the way the memory is going to get represented. I'm not going in too much details of it, showing the addresses and other things, because now we have left Python behind. We are now inside the advanced part. I'm assuming that whenever you are having a collection, you know, there will be a reference, there will be a memory location, and all of them will get pointed there. Okay. So we are now going to go back and talk about each and every memory related details. This is how the memory will be laid out. There will be an array called as index, and there'll be an array called as values, and both of them will be related to each other by using pandas magic. Okay, that's a pandas magic there. Anyways, so now you know what series is. Let me show you a couple of different options to create series from. So this time I created a series from two different lists. It could be a list or it can be a NP array as well. I mean, you can just put those arrays and bind them together by using series. Or better option, I'll just go back here and say def function 4 or function 5, where I can create, let me just go back here and say series using list. You can also go for a series using a tuple as well. That's fine. I mean, if you say that the values or numbers are tuples like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, not required, but anyways, I am going to show you that because we already have started creating a series with list. I'm going to say this is the tuple, and I'm going to create a series from, series from tuple. See, I'm not going to specify the index. If I'm not going to specify index, by default, it will start from 0. We already have seen that. S1 is equals to, again, pd.series, and you can pass the numbers tuple here, Just go back here, say S1 is equals to S1 as usual, what we have seen last time. And also, I want to put the type of S. So the type of S1. Let's verify whether it is a series or not. Of course, it will be a series because we have called that function series in order to create one. You see, by default, it starts from 0 to 4. And the data type here is nothing but a series. You can create a series from list. You can create a series from a tuple as well. Now, we are not going to do that with the list or tuple. We are going to use most of the times to create a series, or rather to create a data frame as a dictionary. So this is the last example. Let's say function 6, where we want to create a dictionary first. Dictionary means, let's say this is the person, which is going to have a key value pairs like name is equals to, let's say person 1. Let's say age is equals to, age is equals to, let's say 30. Let's say email, which is equals to, let's say person1@test.com. And lastly, let's say an address, which is equals to Pune, for example. So we have a dictionary here. Let us print that dictionary first, which is going to be person equals to person. What the hell? Person equals to person, and then we can say the type is equals to type of person. That's it. Next, we can come back here and we can create the the series using dictionary. And it's very simple, by the way. All we have to say here is again pd.series and pass that person as a dictionary. That's the same thing. Print, let's try to print that S1, see how different it is. So this is, this is S1, which is equals to S1. And then we can print the type of S1 by saying type of S1, as simple as that. Just see the difference and you will notice it, how different it is. So when I say run, you can see that this is my dictionary, which is having the name, person 1, age 30, email, blah, 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 blah. And you see that now it has got converted into a series where keys are considered as index positions, values are considered here as values. Someone was asking that, is it a kind of dictionary? I said conceptually true, but it is not exactly a dictionary. You can still create a series by using a dictionary. I think Kaushik were asking that question. This is an answer to your question. So here, whenever you are talking about a kind of a series is always one-dimensional array where there are two values, index value and the actual value you want to store. Okay. Okay, so this is a kind of multiple lists or multiple arrays kind of stuck together, or maybe we have bound them together by using the pandas magic. So that's how we can do it. I hope you are getting it. So when you talk about a series, always remember series is the one which is going to represent a column in a table. So whenever you are talking about the one column of a table, that can be represented by using a series. Now tomorrow when we go for panda, maybe data frame in pandas, there we will see multiple series having common keys will be bound together or will be kind of stick together by using a concept, by using a magic called as data frame. And whatever operations we have performed today on MySQL table, almost all of these operations we are going to perform, or even more than that operations will be performed on pandas data frame. So pandas data frame is the important concept for those who want to go for machine learning, who want to go for data analysis. I'll tell you what data analysis means tomorrow, and also we will try to show that by using a visual representation of it. We'll talk about that later tomorrow. So when we are going to use the data analysis tool, we will try to display that by using a matplotlib. We'll see that tomorrow. Anyways, how many list or tuples can we combine in one series? Only two. I mean, this is the only one dimensional array, means there are maximum two arrays possible to get together. One is the index and the other one is the value. This is also considered as an array. This is also considered as an array. We can bind them together by using series. So Ketan, answer to your question is only two are possible in one single series. Okay. Out of them, the values you are going to store are these, and behind the scene, this particular array will be used for giving you a chance to retrieve those values by using the index positions. Index is not visible to you. Values are visible to you. So if you try to put the values there, you will be able to get 7.5, 20, and so on and so forth. And behind the scene, the values are getting stored on those index positions. Today, I know you are having a couple of questions in your mind. Why do we need that? What's a kind of use case here? But don't worry, I'll show that use case tomorrow. You will see what is the series used, what series is used for. The series is used for representing a column. Having multiple columns sharing the index values will be kind of added together in one single data frame. Series is mutable or immutable. If I tell you series is based on NumPy array, what do you say, Pranit? Will it be mutable or immutable? If series behind the scene is using NumPy array, it has to be immutable. Absolutely right. So henceforth, I mean, whenever you talk about the NumPy and after NumPy, whichever package is going to come, all of them are immutable. You know why? Just because almost all of them are based on NumPy. And most of the times, as I said earlier, we are not going to update the data. See, the concept we are looking at here is kind of data analysis or data understanding. And when you say data understanding or data analysis, you already have the data ready with you. That data, which you are kind of getting here and processing it, which means we are not going to update the data. We are going to study the data. We are going to read the data. We are going to filter the data. So we are going to sort the data. So basically, we are going to perform operations on the data, except getting it modified. So data is not something that we want to modify. Data is something we want to analyze. We want to understand. To do this, we are going to perform these operations. So most of the packages we are going to deal with, we will treat the data as immutable. And that's the reason why they will give us the better performance than going for the list collection provided by Python. Adesh, if one of the content from index or value missed, then will it crash like happens? It will never, because you know that whenever you are doing something like this, you always will get index and value associated with it. Wait, tomorrow we'll see. There is a concept called as a missing values, and those will not crash your application, but those will be represented as missing values using NaN. What is that? I'll mention that tomorrow. Okay. So Adesh, keep your question pending for today. You will get the answer tomorrow. Of course, it will not crash, but there is a different representation of it. What is that? You will see that tomorrow. Anyways, I think today we have seen two things. One is a MySQL package where we can connect our Python application to MySQL database and get the data or perform all the MySQL queries there. And second, we try to look at a kind of overview of pandas series. This is the way we are going to start using the pandas. Tomorrow we'll go dive into it and we'll see how we can add multiple series together to create a data frame, which is going to represent a table, and we'll perform almost all the operations we have done today on database by using the pandas data frame. Okay. Okay. I think that is it for today. We'll continue tomorrow. As usual, thank you for attending for today's session. I'll see you tomorrow exactly at 8 a.m. Please join a little bit earlier so we can start exactly at sharp 8 o'clock, and we'll continue with the data frame tomorrow. Okay. If possible, we'll see Matplotlib. If not, we'll see that day after tomorrow. Anyways, thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, bye-bye. Have a very great day. I'll see you tomorrow exactly at 8 o'clock.